Hey y'all, it's me all in good fun. This message goes out to all y'all MAGA voters who are now regretting your decision. I know you're out there because you make a lot of videos. Now, I'm not going to make fun of you or say nan or FAFO or any of that. I want to have a little serious chat. So you voted for Donald Trump because he promised to give you lower grocery prices. At least that's what you say. Well, grocery prices have gone up, as you know. In fact, maybe you went to the supermarket, you couldn't even buy eggs. There weren't any on the shelves because there's an egg shortage because of the avian flu. Well, it's pretty sad and pretty scary. Thousands of chickens have had to be killed, unlived, so eggs aren't coming to market. But also, it's found that it can be transmitted to humans. It could become a pandemic as bad as COVID, maybe even worse. But you're never going to get any data about it because Trump and Project 2025 cut off all the data reporting from National Institute of Health. But let's move on from that. So grocery prices are up because of avian flu and also because they're deporting a bunch of farm workers, or farm workers aren't showing up at work because they're afraid they'll be deported and stuff's not coming to market.
People are losing their minds right now. Grocery prices up, taxes increased, the exact opposite of what was promised. Now we've got tearful videos saying, I was wrong. Here's the problem: voting for feelings over facts. Promises that sounded good but had zero economic backing. Reality is hitting hard. Today we're breaking down regretful voters, frustrated progressives, and people who saw this coming. What happens when ideology crashes into consequences? Economics doesn't care about your feelings. Vote against your own interests. Eventually the bill comes due. Welcome back to Mind Mirror. Let's get into it.
Okay, enough of that. Let's talk about taxes. He promised you a tax cut. Well, he gave you a tax cut last time he was in office, and it had an end date. The end date was January 2025. So that tax cut you got before it ended. In other words, you got a tax increase. So Donald Trump, he lied over and over again. He didn't give you lower grocery prices, and he didn't cut your taxes. In fact, you got an increase in both of those. But I'm going to tell you what I'm upset about. It's not groceries. It's not taxes. I knew those were going to get bad.
Wait, she says, I knew those were going to get bad. So you knew. You voted anyway, and now you're upset it happened exactly like you expected? This is voting on vibes instead of policy. The tax cuts had expiration dates written in from day one, not hidden, publicly documented, but nobody reads actual legislation. They just believe whatever sounds good. The avian flu situation is pure supply and demand. Millions of chickens culled means fewer eggs. But cutting disease surveillance while a pandemic brews? That's playing Russian roulette with public health. Deporting farm workers while complaining about food prices? You can't remove the people who pick and transport food, then act shocked when it gets expensive and scarce. Every economist warned this would happen. She admits knowing it would go bad. Voters hoped consequences would only hit other people. Except economics doesn't discriminate. When the system breaks, everyone feels it.
I'm upset about the future of the United States. I'm upset that as an old lady, I might outlive the US of A because Donald Trump, he's gone out on the world stage. He's pissed off all of our former friends and allies.
What you are endorsing today, the cruelty, the inhumane treatment of other people, will negate your complaining when it happens to you. You wanted this for other people, but when it's going to happen to you, you're not going to like it. And it is guaranteed to happen to you. Because when they're done with those people, they're going to need someone else to come after. And that's going to be you. Because you're not rich enough for them, and you're not important enough for them. And you know who them are.
Here's the thing about cruelty. It never stays contained. You can't endorse harsh treatment for one group and expect it to stop there. The pattern is always the same. Start with the vulnerable, immigrants, LGBTQ folks, minorities. Normalize the dehumanization, then expand the circle. You're not rich enough or important enough for them. That's the real divide. The ultra-wealthy protecting their interests while convincing working people that their enemy is other working people who look different. The folks making these policies, they're insulated. Private healthcare, private schools, their tax cuts were permanent. Yours expired. When you endorse cruelty for others and it circles back to you, that's the system working exactly as designed. You were always expendable.
I am fully aware that posting my political views on the internet isn't everybody's forte. Okay, isn't going to make everybody happy. I'm not here to make everybody happy. Posting on the internet brings in trolls, and that's okay. You're entitled to your opinions. You're entitled to your views and what you like and who you support. But I'm going to continue to be on the right side of history. I'm going to continue to fight for everybody's rights, everybody's equal rights, because just because you were born here doesn't mean you're from here, okay? Your ancestors were most likely not from here. So no, you're not homegrown, okay? You're inbred. So nothing you say or comment will change my mind. And it won't make me stop posting either. And it won't change my views.
Look, I get the frustration, but calling people inbred while saying you don't think about them in a video entirely about them, that's venting disguised as activism. Shame doesn't change minds. Contempt definitely doesn't. What works is making people feel heard, then showing them a different path. Not easy, not satisfying, but effective. We need some of these folks to wake up. Not all, but enough. Elections are won on margins. Every person who realizes they were misled and changes course, that's progress. Vent when you need to. But remember, the goal isn't winning internet arguments. It's implementing better policy. That requires meeting people where they are.
The MAGA folk are inundating my protest content, so I think it's time that I let you guys in on a little secret. I don't ever think about you. If you go back through my 3 years of content, you'd be hard-pressed to find any mention of MAGA people. I don't talk about you with my friends or my family. I don't think about you. And you won't catch me going through MAGA content, leaving comments like this, because I don't care enough. And here's the primary reason why. Every society, as it progresses, always has laggers, right? People that are much more reluctant to, accept forward progress. People that really want to hold on to the old way of doing things. And now that we have the technology, we have studied brains. And what we have found is that conservative brains tend to be more fear-based, which makes perfect sense. It's why they're so afraid of forward momentum, because it represents the unknown. The status quo is known. Now, I'm not a fear-based person at all. I kind of enjoy the tingle of nervousness about the unknown. I love stepping into the unknown. So societally, for my entire life, you will find me on the very front end of the movements for pretty much every social change. I'm so far ahead of my crowd that I'm basically a scout. I was a prison abolitionist 20 years ago. I've been a vegan for 20 years. I'm a nuclear family abolitionist. So the gap between me and MAGA people is the widest gulf you can imagine. But see, I don't need to persuade you in order to get the social change. That's never where it comes from. It never comes from bringing up the end of the herd. It always comes from getting the front of the herd to move a little faster. So that's where I spend all of my energy. I spend all of my energy.
This is Movement Building 101. You don't create social change by convincing the most resistant 20%. You mobilize the already inclined and pull the movable middle. The I don't think about you energy isn't contempt, it's strategic focus. Abolition didn't wait for slaveholders to evolve. Women's suffrage didn't wait for all men to agree. Civil rights didn't wait for segregationists. The brain science she mentions is real. Conservative brains have larger amygdalas, the fear center, and respond more strongly to threats. Progressive brains are more comfortable with ambiguity and change. Neither is better, but it explains why some people resist change until it becomes normal. Prison abolitionist 20 years ago, nuclear family abolitionist, she's several steps ahead of mainstream discourse. You move society by pulling the front forward, not dragging the rear. Stop wasting energy on people opposing you. Build with people ready to move. The stragglers will adapt when the new normal is established.
Trying to get people, maybe who are center left, to be more left. I mostly spend my time on here trying to get women liberated from patriarchy, because I think that will take care of everything else. So the status quo stragglers of society are never going to be relevant or even interesting to me. But you guys are so obsessed with people like me, and I think it's because I don't fit into the mold of what they're selling you that a liberal is. I mean, I'm a leftist, not a liberal, but you don't know the difference. They tell you that all we do is sit over here obsessing on how to get you, which is what makes you defensively try to get us all the time. And then when you come across a person like me who literally doesn't give a rat's ass about you, it disrupts your worldview, your narrative. You don't have to take my word for it. You can prove it to yourself. You can go through all my content. You won't find me mentioning MAGA. But society always leaves behind the final adopters of progress, and this is no different. You'll catch up if you want to one day, or not, and you'll just end up in the history books the same way that we now talk about slaveholders. This is probably the last time you'll hear me talk about you guys for the next 6 months or a year or however long. So enjoy fighting with each other in my comment sections.
You'll end up in the history books like slaveholders. Harsh, but historically, not wrong. Every major social movement faced massive resistance, and the people on the wrong side don't get remembered fondly. 50 years from now, when someone's grandkid asks, "Which side were you on?" What's the answer? I was concerned about trans kids playing sports. Won't age well. It'll sound as absurd as I was worried about integrated water fountains. The I don't find you relevant thing isn't cruelty. It's boundary setting. I won't spend finite energy on people opposing me. I'll spend it on people ready to grow. You can't pour from an empty cup. Burn out fighting online. You have nothing left for actual organizing.
This message is for MAGA. If you're not MAGA, don't watch this message. If you are MAGA, I promise you, I'm going to do my best to be pragmatic and objective in this post because I really want you to listen to it. Don't take my word for it. Don't believe anything I say, okay? You don't know me from Adam. I'm just some guy on TikTok. I'm a guy who has strong opinions about the current president and about the MAGA movement. But I'm also a guy who has known people who I knew for years, and I've seen how their association with MAGA has taken over their personality. They live and breathe everything about MAGA, and it's obscured their relationships with their spouses, their children, their family, their friends, their employment. And it's natural to feel like you're a victim if you're in that situation. It's natural to feel like, yeah, because they just don't see the truth in all these other narratives. I'm asking you to challenge yourself to step out of your echo chamber, whether it's OAN or Fox News or any right-wing media outlet that you're watching on a regular basis. If it's videos that you're swiping on TikTok, they're all in agreement. And go to an objective source. Don't go to CNN. Don't go to MSNBC. Go to a truly objective source. And there are dozens out there. And then read multiple sources and reports on stories. And ask yourself, have I been fed the truth, or have I been fed what I want to hear? I'm not here to be an asshole, but right now, there are otherwise good people in MAGA who have been consumed by the information that's being pushed out to the point where the only truth can come from one type of person. And that leads you to a lot of dismay when you suddenly find out that what you're being told may not be true. So again, don't take my word for it. I'm just some guy on TikTok. Step out of the echo chamber, challenge yourself to get information from different sources that you haven't, and ask yourself, does this guy really seem like the type of guy that I want to support? Is this movement really doing things that are improving the quality of lives in America? And if you conclude that it is, so be it. You know, you're MAGA through and through. But if you challenge yourself and you objectively look at information and you pragmatically scrutinize that information, I think you will conclude a different story. But again, don't take my word.
This approach works. Don't take my word for it. Step out of the echo chamber. Read multiple sources. Think for yourself. Notice he's not saying watch CNN. He's saying Reuters, AP News, ProPublica, actual investigative journalism with editorial standards, not commentary dressed as news. The key question, have I been fed the truth, or have I been fed what I want to hear? Most people in echo chambers don't realize they're in one. They think they're getting the real truth the mainstream won't tell you. That's the psychological hook. Make people feel special for knowing forbidden knowledge. Same trick cults use. If you're helping someone leave an echo chamber, this works better than mockery. Ask questions. Encourage them to verify things themselves. Make it their journey, not you lecturing them.
I made a video that seemingly ruffled the feathers of every man who's never left the comfort of his mother's basement. You had a lot of things to say to me. So I have some feedback for you, though. I don't know if you guys get together, like instead of AA, it's Lonely Men's Anonymous. You have meetings or Zoom calls or what. But I just have some feedback so that next time you attack a woman, you can present as more of a united front. First things first, I claimed that men that drive super lifted trucks with a huge Trump decal on the back aren't good in bed. I just want you to know that men who are confident with their skills in the bedroom don't have to come online and defend their skills in the bedroom. So let's just start there. You're already telling on yourself. Second, please get on the same page when you're insulting me, because half of you are saying, you know, as if you're any good in the bedroom, no man wants to come within 10 feet of you, blah, blah, blah. And the other half are saying I look like someone that just has run through every man in my local bar. So I don't really know, like, what's the consensus? And then lastly, and this one really confused me, you didn't like that I was talking about someone else's sex life. Like, that was so disgusting. But this was confusing because I was actually just taking a page out of your book. I was speaking in a language that I thought you would understand, because seemingly that's all you guys think about. Besides being racist, the only other thing you talk about is other people's sex lives, who they're sleeping with, what gender they're sleeping with, their parts, who does and doesn't have what parts, and change it. Like, you guys are obsessed with talking about people's intimate lives. So I just thought this is language they will understand. And also, the man you claim to love so much has said more sexually explicit things about his own daughter than I did in that TikTok. So I feel really confused. Anyways, I have a few more notes for you, but why don't you just cover that in your agenda for the week? I don't know how often you guys are meeting. I know your schedules are usually pretty clear, but you just let me know. I'm sure that we will meet again in my TikTok section. It's just always a pleasure, always.
She's right. Confident people don't rush online to defend their bedroom skills to strangers. The protest is the confession, but the deeper issue is how political discourse toward women immediately becomes sexual. Women who speak out get hit with a specific harassment pattern: appearance, desirability, sexual history. Always. No man wants you, and you're ran through in the same comment section. That's making women feel unsafe for speaking publicly. The hypocrisy is loud. The conservative culture war is literally about policing intimacy. Who can marry whom, what bathrooms people use, what healthcare women can access.
Hey folks, as the election approaches, I think we need to acknowledge the MAGA moms. Yeah. Let's send a shout out to the moms who work tirelessly to raise their kids in exactly the way the men in their lives tell them to. The moms who need their kids to look a certain way, act a certain way, pray a certain way, work a certain way, and of course, love a certain way. To the moms who took the political footballs offered to them by the conservative patriarchal machine and ran them over the finish line, spiking them off the heads of trans kids and librarians. Go moms! Let's acknowledge the moms who don't want their kids to know how their body parts work and also expect them to make great choices that won't shame mom in church. The moms who can excuse locker room talk and a grape ruling, but who want their daughters to marry a good boy who respects women. Let's recognize the moms who never gave a crap about their kids' education until they saw an opportunity for fame via faux outrage at school board meetings. Let's lend our attention to the moms who shudder at the thought of exposing their kids to Target Pride merchandise, but who think the Second Amendment is well worth it for kids to feel like sitting ducks in homeroom. Let's shine some light on the moms who would never take their kids to a drag show, but who parade their kids around like strippers at child pageants. Or, of course, the moms who've had abortions but vote against their daughters having the right to the same medical care. Shout out to the moms who've watched Republicans overturn Roe, deny life-saving medical care to women with medical emergencies during pregnancy, deny abortion care to rape and incest victims, prosecute women for miscarriages, block IVF, push for a total abortion ban, and make a whole host of statements about eliminating birth control, but who still think Republicans know best about what women should do with their bodies. The same women who watch Republican men vote against everything that would improve the life of a child in foster care or poverty, and still swallow the lie that the Republican men want what's best for children. Yeah, to all of those moms, I'm looking at you. Well, let's be clear, MAGA moms. Moms like you are in the minority. Most moms wouldn't trade the well-being of children for inclusion in a cult. Most moms would be repulsed by how you dropped Jesus like a hot potato when the handlers told you to. Yeah. To the moms who sully the name of moms, we see you. We hear you. We're clocking the harm you're doing. And when your kids have gone no contact with you, we'll remember how you chose hate. Yeah. Well, MAGA moms, have the day you deserve.
The contradictions are staggering. Moms who claim to protect children while supporting policies that actively harm them, vote against school funding, healthcare, food assistance, then claim moral superiority because they oppose drag shows. Post-Dobbs, women are dying in hospital parking lots because doctors are afraid to provide emergency care during miscarriages. 10-year-old rape victims forced to cross state lines, women prosecuted for miscarriages. And yet some moms insist this is protecting children. That's cruelty dressed as virtue. What's being described isn't conservative conservative parenting. It's using children as props to signal political loyalty. Raising kids to look, act, pray, work, and love a certain way isn't parenting, it's programming. When those kids grow up and cut contact, it won't be because they were corrupted, it'll be because they weren't allowed to be themselves. Your job is raising humans who can think critically and make their own choices, not creating mini versions of yourself who never question your worldview.
I left the left a couple of weeks ago, and I would just like to apologize anyone who saw any post, comment, repost of mine that had any sort of leftist ideology and propaganda. I was so wrong. I can't even begin to explain how it feels to realize that you've been fed propaganda for years. For 32 years of my life, I have been an independent but left-leaning and Democratic voter. I'm so sorry. I fell right into the propagandist, radical, leftist craziness. Please understand that the woke mind virus is very real. It's very real, and it is embarrassing as hell coming out of something like that. However, I'd like to say that I am so grateful to every Republican and conservative that has been so kind to me and welcoming and forgiving. I'd also like to apologize to the autism parent community. I took part in the propaganda about eugenics. I made several cringy videos about eugenics in regards to what RFK was doing and what Trump was doing. And I was so wrong. Not only was I wrong, but it is absolutely inappropriate for me to have judged any of you for wanting a cure to autism or just information about autism. I myself have a profoundly autistic, soon-to-be 7-year-old. After doing my research, I understand, and I can't begin to tell you how sorry I am. I've started to delete comments that I've left on some of your videos from, the months prior. There's just so many. My entire TikTok has been, I was a leftist the entire time. And so I don't know that I will be able to delete every single mistake that I have made. However, please understand that I am very sorry. I understand that I was wrong, and I no longer align with any of that. I realize that this is going to cause me to lose a lot of followers. That's okay. I don't have that many to begin with. I've already lost my best friend over this, so you really can't hurt me. If you find yourself trying to criticize me or leaving hate comments, that's fine. I understand. I was like you. I did those things too. Also like to apologize to this administration for being skeptical and for spreading misinformation and propaganda, leftist propaganda. I understand now, and I am in full support of this administration. And I, again, am so sorry. So sorry.
Something's off. Someone doesn't hold progressive views for 32 years, then flip completely in 2 weeks based on research. Especially not to the point of apologizing for opposing eugenics. Being cautious about curing autism isn't propaganda. It's listening to autistic adults who say, we don't need to be cured, we need to be accommodated and understood. This feels less like someone who evaluated evidence and more like someone who got love-bombed by a community offering acceptance. Which, if true, is sad, not victorious. Real intellectual growth means holding nuanced positions, not replacing one tribal orthodoxy with another. If you're questioning your beliefs, that's healthy. Question everything. But wholesale flipping your worldview for community acceptance isn't critical thinking. Find people who accept you while you figure out what you actually believe. So what did we just watch? America in 2025. Campaign promises crashing into policy reality. People doubling down, others waking up. Here's the takeaway. Political identity isn't a team sport. It's about policy outcomes that affect real lives. If you voted for something that hurt you, that's a lesson. Learn from it. Don't let pride lock you into positions that actively harm you. If you're exhausted warning people who won't listen, your job isn't saving everyone. It's pushing for better policy and supporting those ready to hear it. Drop a comment. Seeing regret in your circles? Frustrated with the discourse? Just tired? If this hit home, share it. Hit subscribe for more reality checks. And remember, changing your mind when facts change isn't weakness, it's growth. See you next time on Mind Mirror.